Hey there, friends. David Paulides, Canam Missing Project. And you are looking at the pristine and beautiful Huck L. Berry. Yes, she is pristine. She is beautiful because she just had a bath after coming back from 8 days at her friend's. She's white, beautiful, and thick fur. Huck, what you doing? Huh? What you doing? Yes, a good girl. Yes, a good girl. Oh, that's a pretty girl. Yes, a pretty girl. Oh, that's a good girl. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, girl. You're so soft and pretty. Yes, you are. You know you're pretty. I know you know that. I know you know that. I know you do. Yes, we all know. Your fans like you too. They told me on the cruise you're a good girl. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, she's going to supervise from her position there as I take the podium and try to tell you some pretty wacky stuff that's going on in the world. Yeah, wacky stuff. So, I'd say several weeks ago, I talked to you about some bear attacks in Japan, which I thought was weird. Well, now the story truthfully starts to come out. A few days ago, the State Department issued a warning to Americans traveling in Japan, quote, as deadly bear attacks kill 13 people since April. State Department says, be diligent. Here's the story. The State Department is warning Americans in Japan to be aware of their surroundings amid an increase in bear sightings after 13 people have been killed by the wild animal in the country since April. Japan officials have closed Murayama Park in Sapporo, which is adjacent to the U.S. Consulate General, for 2 weeks following a bear sighting in the park, read a State Department alert Wednesday. Bear sightings and attacks have increased in parts of Japan, especially in municipalities close to or adjacent to popular zones, the alert states. Although the consulate is located outside of the park, we encourage all of our visitors for routine or other services to be diligent and aware of your surroundings. Since April 13th, people have been killed by bears in Japan. In response, Japan has deployed troops to the northern Akita region on November 8th following the most recent attack there. The troops didn't carry firearms and did not harm any bears. Time out. Why are you sending troops into harm's way without guns? How is that smart? Instead, they carried bear spray, sticks, shields, goggles, bulletproof jackets, and net launchers in an attempt to restore a sense of safety in the area. What? A big brown bear comes after you. I'm sorry. That isn't gonna work. It says a poor acorn harvest resulted in a boom to Japan's bear population as they move closer to residential areas to seek out food. Residential areas in Hokkaido and Akita have been reported bear sightings, which could lead to more park closures. The U.S. Embassy in Tokyo urged Americans to avoid areas where bears have been sighted and to report sightings to authorities. It sounds like they're freaking out, which is very odd. Very odd. I mean, this is the bears' grounds. That's where they live. And if you see a bear in the woods, why are you freaking out? I did a little research. So 13 fatalities since April in Japan. The U.S. has an average of 1 to 3 fatal attacks annually of bears. And the U.S. is 26 times the size of Japan. So to have 13 deaths in that amount of time, I would call that a catastrophe. And then if I was Japan, I would have some of our bear biologists go there if I was a bear biologist, I'd want to go there and study what in the heck happened. Something's not right. No, I'm not going to Japan, by the way. I heard some people out there asking. No, I would like to. I like sushi. So, I am back from the cruise. The previous video I did that's up, I talked about the cruise. It was great. I hope you guys sign up for the Missing 411 Alaska cruise. Oh, yeah, that's right. We are having an Alaska cruise for Missing 411. Go to Gather Up Events and you will find our cruise. And it will be a humdinger. I'm not kidding you. Now, the stories today, pretty weird. First one involves a young boy named Michael Dillard, 15 years old, missing January 12th, 2018. 5'5", 135 pounds, high school student, and he's missing from Calvin, West Virginia. And you're going, well, Dave, we're not sure where Calvin, West Virginia is. Well, I don't blame you, because I didn't know either. So here's Virginia, right here. Calvin is right there, and they lived off of Tioga Road, right in that region, north of Beckley. And you can see it's just directly west of Washington, D.C. And yes, a lot of strangeness happens in West Virginia. Now, they live near Tioga and Little Beaver Road right here at this intersection. And Big Beaver Creek flows right through that area. A couple of ponds. Generally all woods around here. He lived with his adopted family. They adopted him when he was 4 years old. So he'd essentially grown up in this family atmosphere. Now, he had recently come home after spending a year in a residential care facility for depression. Michael was extremely close to his older sister, who didn't live in the house, but lived not far away, just a mile or two. On January 10th, Michael told his sister Brittany that he was having the best day of his life. She said he was upbeat, happy, everything seemed to be going well. January 11th, they had communication again. He was in a good mood, everything was great. January 12th, he took the bus home from school, got home, met his mom, was a little off, and then his mom drove him to Brittany's home. And Brittany said that Michael barely spoke to her. She could tell something was wrong, but she didn't know what. He wasn't quite himself. Let's stop here for a second. There are several mental health issues where people take wide swings in their mental health day to day. One day could be the best day and the next day could be the worst day. So this isn't uncommon. Well, the mom put Michael in the car and they drove down the street and they went to Brittany's. They had to pick some things up and bring him home. And that's where Brittany saw him and said, yeah, he wasn't himself. So the mom turns around after the car's loaded up and they drive back to their home, just short distance away. And Michael is helping his mom unload the car, take things in the home. One version of the story is that Michael and the mom got into an argument. Unconfirmed. I read it on one article. Brittany reported that there was no argument, that Michael was going in the home, all of a sudden changed and ran into the forest and behind the home. Pretty unusual. Yeah, it was a cold January day. He was wearing a coat, an orange coat. Mom ran into the back, called his name. He wouldn't respond. He didn't have his cell phone with him, and he only had $2 in cash. So he didn't have much. The mom immediately calls the dad. He responds. Mom calls Brittany. She responds, and they start searching, calling his name. They didn't get a response. Well, they called West Virginia state troopers who have jurisdiction in that area. And about a little after 5, they arrive. State troopers in West Virginia have an unusual relationship with their residents. Whereas in most states, a sheriff's office would have jurisdiction for law enforcement. In West Virginia, it's the state troopers. And there's good and bad to that. State troopers can get transferred throughout the state, whereas deputy sheriffs stay in that county for their career, get to know the area better. But the troopers can move on a whim or get transferred on a whim. Well, the first trooper that gets there realizes, well, there's a lot of ground here to cover. We need more resources. He also realized that a big winter storm was coming in within the next several hours. And he called for more resources, and he was getting them. The relatives are still in the back calling his name, not getting any response. And the trooper gets more resources there, and they start to search the woods. Then it starts to rain, fog, and that goes through the whole night, and temps drop down into the high 20s. They're not finding anything. Michael's not responding to their calls. They've got nothing. They come back the next day. Again, a large search of the area. Again, they've got nothing. They can't understand why Michael ran into the back. Nothing propagated that. About 10 days after the disappearance, the state troopers decide they're going to go back out there again, and they're going to use a helicopter and cadaver dogs. They also brought out Michael's own personal dog from the house to bring him out into the back. Well, they bring the dog out into the back, and it walks 300 yards behind the home, right to his coat, orange coat, laying on the ground. It was reported that the coat wasn't dirty, muddy, nothing. It was just laying there. They didn't quite know what to make of that, but the cadaver dogs weren't picking up anything. So that's unusual. Fast forward to October 2024, and the troopers get a report and a tip from someone that something related to Michael's was at this house in the general area. They never said exactly where. But they wrote it up in an affidavit, took the information to a judge, and the judge gave him a search warrant of this location. They searched it, they found nothing. Troopers later said that they didn't believe the tip was credible at that point, and they dropped it. By law, they had to have thought it was credible to get the original search warrant. Now, there was several articles that talked about a West Virginia retired state trooper named John Bonazzo. He entered the case voluntarily. He said that the coat was found in an area previously searched, and he said it possibly was planted there. He also said it was possible that Michael died of hypothermia. Well, I've got a few things to say about that. But as I said, this is one of the most unusual cases he's ever worked. And there were rumors about the time that Michael disappeared that somebody claimed they might have seen him on the roadway not far from his house. Never confirmed, completely unconfirmed, but it offers a level of ambiguity to the story that people always question. Speaking of questions, when Michael vanished, it was cold outside. Why would he voluntarily strip off his coat 300 yards from his home? And don't tell me it's hypothermia, because hypothermia can't set in that quickly in that area at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't even think it could set in that quickly when it's 20 degrees outside at 3 in the morning. Not that quickly. So I don't think that dog hunts. And then Bonazzo's statement about somebody planted the coat there. I got a question. Why would anyone risk being seen putting that coat into an area that had already been searched? What does that prove? Planted for what reason? I don't get it. Some people may be saying, well, Dave, why are you covering this story? Well, if you're a long-time 411 follower, you know why. But just for clarity, Michael had a history of depression. That does not explain searchers' inability to find him and or his coat being found. You see, dogs don't care if you have depression. No. You put a dog on a job and they're excited to be out looking. They want to be successful. They get treats, they get a toy, they get a lot of fun things, and so they're trying to please the master. It's irrelevant to them if you've got mental health problems, marriage problems, whatever. They're going to find you if you're there. Is Michael there? Well, as you know, months later, sometimes people are found right in the area they were previously searched for. So, here's a wanted poster put out by West Virginia State Police. 5'5", 135 pounds, 15 years old. I gotta say this. You have to admire a family that adopts a child 4 years old. You don't know if the mother was an alcoholic or a drug addict. You don't know the mental history of the parents. You don't know what could have been inherited. You're really adopting a wild card. And the people that do these things, I greatly admire them. Their lifestyle, their ability to thrive under these circumstances with a loss such as this, it's huge. You talk about kindness. One of the greatest forms of kindness is adoption. Whether you're adopting a dog or a person, that's kindness. Second case involves a man named Gil Clark, 78 years old, missing August 14th of this year, 2025, in California. This is what Gilbert looks like. He was a resident of Goodyear Bar, California, in the gold country. He had prior addresses in Festus, Missouri, Nevada City, California, Tahoe City. Now, Festus, Missouri, I'm really not too familiar with, but Nevada City and Tahoe City, those are in the mountains. And he lived in the mountains. He was last seen August 5th or 6th when a friend dropped him in Downeyville, California. So he lived in Goodyear's Bar on Highway 49. Now, to California residents, Highway 49 is the 49er Gold Rush Highway. Went through the middle of gold country. Over here you have Oroville. Down here you have Grass Valley. Down in this area, Sacramento. Up in this area, High Sierras and Lake Tahoe. This direction east is going higher up into the mountains. So he lives here. Downeyville is about right there at the end of that yellow mark. And he is last seen in Downeyville after getting a ride from a friend from his home. Now, I couldn't confirm this, but my gut tells me that he was involved in gold prospecting. It's just a gut feeling. A little bit about the area because it helps you understand what these people are faced with. Sierra County, the county that he lived in, had a population of 3,200 people, very small. County seat is Downeyville. The county is 962 square miles in size. And from 1848 to 1860, there were 16,000 gold miners living in this little area. And they did have success, folks. Oh, yes. There was a 26-pound gold nugget found in Avoirdupois. There was a 51-pound gold nugget found in 1853 in French Ravine. And there was a 106-pound nugget found in 1869 in Sierra City. That 106-pound nugget, today's value, $6.7 million. I've been through this area dozens of times when I lived in California. And I know many people that even today go to this area and gold pan. It's almost everyone does it at one time in their life. And you know what? You're bound to find some gold. It's a gold-rich area. Now, Goodyear's Bar, the location where Gilbert lived, is in Sierra County, located on the north fork of the Yuba River along State Route 49. That's right, a river flows right by his house. There was a historic mining camp in Goodyear Bar in 1849, and they were prospecting Goodyear Creek. October 7th, 1851, they established a post office there. Goodyear Bar is one of these places where everyone knows everyone else. Population is just 69 people. There's not a lot out there, folks. A sheriff's office like Sierra County Sheriff's that has just 3,200 people in the entire county, I'll bet that they don't even have 10 deputies. And that is dangerous when you have a big search going on for someone. Because trying to get resources into the area, in an area where there's not a lot of population, I've talked to you about this before, hard to do. Well, remember that Gil was driven into Downeyville by a friend from his home in that August 4th, 5th time frame, 6th. They weren't sure. Well, friends hadn't seen him in a long time. And so on August 14th, they're saying the last date now is August 6th. So 8 days they hadn't seen him. His friends called the sheriff and said, hey, we need to do a welfare check where he is. They went to his house. They didn't find him. So the sheriff goes to his house. They determined he hadn't been there in a long time. Well, people knew that Gil's routine was get a friend that's going to Downeyville, drop him off, he'd do his shopping, etc. And then he would walk the 4-mile stretch down the highway, Highway 49, back to Goodyear Bar. He was in decent shape. He could do it, no problem. Elevation was only 2,000 and change, so it's not that high. Well, when the sheriff heard this and went to his home and figured out that he hadn't been home in a long time, he backtracked and figured maybe he's somewhere along that roadway between Downeyville and Goodyear Bar. But they also knew that Gil liked to hike in the mountains right behind his home, which was all woods and trails. So what they decided to do was first search the roadway and the sides of the roadway in that 4-mile stretch. So they had searchers walk that, which is a good idea. Well, the searchers claimed to have seen a significant number of bear activity in that area. And a CHP helicopter was being used with FLIR trying to see if they could see anything. Well, they didn't find any remains of Gil, and they were a little stumped. So 3 days later, months later, November 17th, there's another search of the area, and they find some clothes and personal items initially said to be Gil's. Later it was changed, stating it appears to belong to Gil. And then they took the clothing and sent it for DNA testing. They sent 4 cadaver dogs into this area where the clothes were at, attempting to find something. What they never said was the condition of the clothes. The implication that the sheriff was giving is that Gil was walking along the road, had a medical condition, collapsed, and post-death, there's animal predation on the body. One problem. Where's the body? You see, if animals drag you away, there's going to be drag marks, there's going to be torn clothing, there's going to be blood, and there's going to be tissue on the ground. That's just the way it is. Well, they brought cadaver dogs into that area, and they didn't find any scent of death. The sheriff later said he believes that he had this medical issue, was walking home, died, and the bears or a mountain lion ate him. But again, they never said the condition of the clothes. Cadaver dogs should have hit on minute tissue in that area. Gil has not been located, and no further searches are scheduled. This is a map, 2 maps, of search areas that were covered. I've told you in the past that searchers will wear a transponder showing exactly where they walked and what they covered. One area was the roadway between the 2 towns, the other was the location behind his home. Now, one of the big issues on this, huge issues, is that there was an 8-day lapse in time between when he disappeared and when they started searching. The truth is, they have no idea where he was. He could have been home for a couple days and nobody knew that. I find the sheriff's explanation to be one of those local reports for local consumption, because I haven't heard of an explanation like this ever. And they've never come back to say that those DNA results on the clothes came back to Gil or did not come back to Gil. Not sure if we will ever hear that. If it doesn't fit the sheriff's paradigm, you're probably not going to hear it. I think they said that personal items were found, but they never said what those personal items were. Now, if it was his wallet with his ID, well, then you got something. I'm a little perplexed by the case. And I'm very concerned because the county is so small, so few in population, that these cases really don't get adequate attention like others. And I think that's a great fault of our system. It's unfortunate, but when you go live in an area without a lot of people, there's not a lot of resources. So, the premiere of American Sasquatch, Man, Myth, or Monster is going to be November 28th in Tacoma, Washington. Still time to get tickets, missing411.com. And I will have a new book come out on December 1st when the movie is released. You can watch the movie on Apple TV, Amazon, and Vudu. Yes, it will be publicly available after that. We've got a great response to the premiere. I'm looking forward to meeting you all there. And folks, kindness. I had probably 25 people come up to me and thank me for talking about two things on the show. Not about missing people. Two things. Kindness, mental health. And they said, Dave, don't listen to those people that don't want you to talk about those things. You keep talking about them. They're important. They're ignored. And we need more emphasis on those in today's world. So I hear you. We're going to keep it up. Kindness costs us nothing. Please, when you're out walking around, doing your business, going to the store, be kind. And I heard some great kindness stories on the trip. So we are having an effect. Thanks for being here. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel. That is important. And if you have a case that you want me to look at, send me an email at missing411.com. missing411@yahoo.com. Be safe, be kind. Paulides out.